Hello, and welcome to our SewingSangha. You'll find a series of videos here on how to make a rakusu in the Soto Zen tradition, and more specifically, in the tradition of the Upaya Zen Center, Roshi Joan Halifax's lineage. We'll go through each step in detail to help you create your own rakusu. You might want to like the video and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell so you'll learn when new videos are posted. If you have any questions or comments, please post them in the comment section below. We'll do our best to answer them. I'm Cheryl Daishin, and today we'll be going over the face of the rakusu and talking about the pattern pieces. So no fabric yet, no sewing yet. So we'll definitely be looking at how to place the patterns and how to work with them. You'll find the link to the Rakusu pattern book in the description below. So let's go to the downward facing camera and get started. There we go. So the pattern book is where you're going to find the strips that make up the face of the rakusu. But before we start with the pattern book and the face of the rakusu itself, let's talk about patterns, because I think most of us think of a pattern as this tissue paper-like material. So you get a pattern book from the sewing store, McCall's or Simplicity, and it's a lightweight tissue paper, and you put it over the fabric, and then you cut the fabric to match the pattern. So it makes sense that you would think that you'd put the pattern piece on top of the fabric and work with it with the two pieces together. However, we're working with what's actually a patchwork quilt rather than a garment. So the rakusu itself becomes a garment. However, the face of the rakusu is made up of strips that are then pieced together. Now, we're going to take a look at two ways to work with this paper pattern. And the first way is to print the pattern book. And in that book, you'll find pages that will give you a pattern layout. You also have the one that I recommend for you to use as well, that actually will use your fabric a little bit more efficiently. But either way is fine, actually. If you have plenty of fabric, go ahead and use the one that you feel more comfortable with. Well, they'll all work. And then when you take a look at the pages that have how to make these special tucks in the strips, it gets a little bit more exciting, right? It's like, uh-oh, how do I do this? So what I'd like to do today is only work with the paper patterns, and I'm going to give you two different methods to create and work with these patterns. So let's take a look at moving. Let me move these, a couple of these out of the way, because we'll only be tucking the A strips, the D strip, which there's only one, and this two C strips. So you'll have 5 strips in total that will be tucked to create that, that patchwork look on your rakusu face. So this is an example of what these tucks will look like. And here's the example of what they're going to do, what the measurements are. So when you're looking at these grayed out areas and the different lines and measures, and then trying to say, oh, how do I get this to look like that? And so we're going to, or this to look like that. So that's what we're going to do today, is look at how do we make these tucks. Now, one of the things we are going to ignore for now are these seam lines. So this will be our seam allowance, but we're going to ignore that for now. We're not going to be dealing with that at all, the stitching line or seam allowance. The only thing we're going to be looking at is how to make this tuck. So one of the ways that we can start doing that is to fold on this straight line. So this straight line is going to show you the first tuck here. So here I have this square. Now I'm going to have this square. And these are not to size. These are smaller, than this one, but that's okay. It's just giving you the idea. So I can use the smooth end of a pen, or if you are maybe you do cards and other crafts and have a bone folder, or just, use your fingernails and straighten that out. All right. And then the next fold we're going to make will be folding right on this little dotted line here. And we're going to match these two straight lines. And see, they've really done a nice job with creating this pattern, because, but it's still a little bit daunting to figure out, what do they mean by that? How do you use that? Because I think in the, before you cut the strip out, there are little, like, these arrows pull this way, and I'm going to be honest that it took me forever to figure out which direction that was. So folding this guy in right to the edge. And you can see where you have to fuss with a little bit. And, I don't know if any of you guys do origami, but it's the same kind of thing. We want to be, and again, we want to be precise, but we're not striving for perfection. We're striving for precision. So, and we're going to do the very same thing with this. So here's our outie, or the tuck that goes out. There's our tuck that goes out. And then this guy is going to be in the shade, so he's going to dip down. And how we're going to do that is to fold on this line this way. I'm going to double check that I did a good job with finding the line, and use my pen to burnish the fold. Okay, so I have this guy coming in. And now I want to put this guy to come in on this dotted line. Okay. So some of them, the line will be inside when you fold them, and it's like, oh, am I doing it right? So just double check, make sure that the fold is right on our little dots. Okay. And we're gonna burnish that down. And then I'm going to marry these two up. These two, the straight lines are always going to kind of kiss each other. Yeah, I'm kind of a romantic. I've been watching too many K-dramas. So we're going to make a little kiss on the edges. All right. And that guy could probably be just a little better. Just a tiny little bit. And this is actually where you want to play around and be kind of fussy, because that way you'll get the practice of how to do this before we work on our fabric. Because the fabric will be a little looser trying to get these folds in here. But we'll definitely be able to do that. So no worries. All right. So you'll notice we have this guy is out. This guy is in. This guy is partly out. And then we're going to complete our tuck here by folding back on the straight line. Get a nice sharp and we're going to fold in on our dotted lines. You see that? I'm trying to make sure you can see it as well as, because then I'm trying to see around the camera stand. I guess I should check. Maybe my son has one of those GoPro things that you can wear. That'd be fun. Anyhow, or Manny, maybe I'll go with Manny and Kodo and see if they have any suggestions for me for my cinematic efforts here. So I'm going to make sure that these match, because we're in a nice kiss together on this line. All right. Okay, so now let's take a look again. All right, this guy comes out, so the fold is on top. This guy goes underneath. Right, this guy is going to go on top, so we get a fold on top and a fold on top. Okay, now this teeny tiny little guy, only 5/16 of an inch, so it's pretty teeny, is going to be a guy that goes down or underneath. So, but we're going to do the same process here of folding first on our dotted line. It's kind of like a craft project, and so hopefully you'll forgive me for being so step by step, but I think that I know I had trouble with it. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do step by step, because even though I've made a lot of quilts in my past, nothing like this that didn't have any of these tucks. And so that makes a big difference in how it works. Plus, I think there was a little bit of an added pressure that I was trying to make it. I was so determined to do it right. It's like, okay, well, this is, a sacred object. This is the Tathagata's robe, and, I have to do it right. And so putting the extra pressure on myself, I think also worked against me to then struggle and have to do them several times. So you may have to do them more than once, because as you're taking a look at these folds, you might go, this is kind of tough, but keep practicing at that. And even if you don't get it right the first time, keep trying, because it's once you get it, you're going to go, oh, this is why you're going to struggle. This is pretty easy. So, and it's okay. And we're going to work on the paper pattern first, and then we'll graduate in our next episode to working with the fabric. And that way, you're going to have time to do the paper pattern, feel comfortable with that before you work on the fabric that will become your rakusu. Right, so we've done A. Woohoo! Now you'll notice that on the pattern book, it's marked as A1 and A2, and that only is important at the end when we put these all together and put the frame around the patchwork quilt that's inside. So that right now they're the same. So don't, they're both the same. So don't worry about that. You're going to want to make, you'll be making 2 of these in the fabric, and we're not going to worry about seam allowances yet. Okay, so that'll be a step going forward. So we want to take things one step at a time, and realizing that we have many steps to go. And so we're not going to worry about step 15, 20 behind 100 when we're still on step 5. So we're going to work on each step in turn. All right. Now let's go for D. Well, it's a good thing to do all of the strips here so that nothing's left to chance. And D only has one, this is our central strip, and there's only one tuck in there, but it's a nice big tuck. So I'm going to basically do the same thing, where I'm going to have these 2 solid lines. The 2 solid lines are always going to kiss, all right? And the center line is where they fold, and so that they can meet together. So I'm going to work on, and one of the things you actually can do, and I mentioned this, is to even take your fingernail and kind of make a little score along that dotted line. That might have been a good thing to talk about in the beginning, to be able to make sure that fold is nice and crisp. Right, so let's see if we were successful. Yeah, so that worked well. Now, again, we're going to be mindful about that this center piece, we want it to be out so that the fold will be out. So I'm going to put the 2 solid lines are going to kiss this way. Okay. There we go. So you see our tuck is coming out, all right? And we're going to do the same thing here, where we're going to go through, fold on the dotted lines, Show nice and straight. Using the pen instead of my fingernails, I guess. And then our solid line will, the two solid lines are gonna, oh, actually, oh, now see, this is good. I'm glad this happened because I did it backward. And so my goal was to do it exactly right from the first start, but I'm actually glad this happened because I was going to put them this way and that would have been wrong. You see, if it seems reasonable, right? But I would have this tuck coming out and then this one would have been coming out. No, what we want is the opposite. I want to go this direction and fold this guy. But see how it is forgiving. You can, when you really look at the and compare them and find out, oh, I did the backward, just do it again. And it's so much easier to do it on the paper pattern than on the fabric, obviously. So once this is done, then when you start working on your fabric, you're going to have a great example of how it was done and be able to be successful. So here we go. Now let's have our two lines have a nice kiss here. There we go. Oh, that's good. So this guy comes out. So both of these lines will be, you know, the dimensional parts. So we have this guy coming this way and this guy coming that way. See? So this guy comes out. So let me look at that one this way on the sideways too. So see how we have this fold tuck going in, this one going out, this one going in, and then the rest of that going out. So you can kind of see from the side view on A, and then here's D with the same side view. So these guys then have an outie, if you will. I think that's what Marilyn likes to call it. It's just an outie. And then the ones that go in are the innies. So D, and this will be the only one we do, and that's sort of the center strip. So it's nice big, the big guy in the middle. All right. So the last one that we'll do is C. And C is the narrowest one. He's a tiny guy. So now B are the strips that will go on the face. So it's, you know, the B strips though don't have any tucks, so they're straight. And so we're not going to worry with those right now. But again, you'll see lots of dotted lines, and we're not going to worry about those. We're not going to think about the seam allowances right now. But what we will do is take this pattern and say, where's this guy? This one is going to be out. He's going to come toward you. So we're going to do the same process that we did before. This is probably a good time to do that kind of scoring. And just use your fingernail to make sure we've got a little bend here for the dotted line. And I'm going to fold this down. All right. And then this guy is going to kiss this guy. Oh, guy, gal, but it's whatever, combination, friends, you know, whatever, whoever kissy will enjoy that. Sorry. So then we're going to go back here and do the same thing. Give a little score with your fingernail, and then we're going to make sure that we don't make the mistake I made with D and do this one correctly and have this guy, the first line is going to come this direction. So this guy will come behind, and I'm going to fold it, nice crisp fold there, and then come back up, and our dotted line has already been kind of scored a bit, and we'll match it to that solid line. So we have our outie. So the fold goes up toward, up toward the sky. And this one, you'll be making two fabric pieces of this. two fabric pieces of A and one fabric piece of D. So these guys are going to be examples that you'll use. So when you get your fabric and you have, we've got your A, D, and C, and we'll have them, and never fear, we're going to be first folding. The next episode will be folding the fabric strips and keeping these guys together so that we'll have the model and then the fabric, and we'll show you how to do that. And we're only going to be folding the fabric and laying it out to make sure it's even and making any adjustments that we need to make. All right, so that's a step in advance. Don't skip ahead. Do this first, and I want to emphasize that this is really an important step to do this paper project first, and then think about tucking your fabric. And the next video that we'll be doing, the next episode will show exactly how to do that. And then after that, we'll be looking at lining them up and how to join them together. All right. So don't worry about, again, we're not going to worry about steps, on down the road. We're going to just focus on this for now. So as you're taking a look at those strips, then, this is going to be, this should give you a real feeling of accomplishment, because this is exactly what you'll be doing when you put the face together. And that the face is the toughest part. I think everyone gets a little bit scared of the face. I know I did. But we're going to work with these types of exercises to make sure that when you get there, you're going to have a lot more confidence and feel more secure about doing them. I also wanted to give you one other possibility. And I'm actually debating if I should do another video about this particular method, because I found it to be very, very helpful to use graph paper. And I think in the supplies video, I emphasized getting some graph paper. And this is probably something that you can find. You might even have, a friend or family member who does the kind of work that they work with graph paper all the time, and they'd be happy to give you, a handful of sheets. Because the graph paper is very helpful to be able to line things up. And what you'll find is that each of the little squares, and actually it's kind of a do-it-yourself project. So if it feels like maybe too much, don't worry about that. Go to Kinko's or whatever to make a photocopy of the Rakusu pattern book. But I also like to have ways to avoid needing to go to the copy shop. Is it? Yes, coffee shop. I think I was saying coffee shop. I think I need a cup of coffee. But to be able to avoid having too much extra expense, to avoid needing to go to the copy shop, and if you don't have one available, to be able to be a little more self-sufficient. So when you're looking at the graph paper, as you can see here, 4 squares equals an inch. And when you're measuring to say cut out any of these different strips, you'll find that the pattern book shows the measurements of each of these strips. Oops, excuse me, forgive me. So as you're taking a look at a piece of graph paper, and you'll be getting an 8.5 by 11 pad of graph paper, or someone already has that you can borrow a few sheets of it, that all of the strips would be able to fit right on the graph paper, and you can graph your own strip by measuring these dimensions. And I found that to be very helpful to be able to keep a visual cue on where the tucks are and how they interact with each other. So the strips that, like for instance, if we're just using the A strip, you can see where the graph paper pattern of A has the measurements that are based on, so if I unfurled him, you see where I took each of these measurements, oopsie, and transferred it onto the graph paper. And that way I could make my tucks and make my adjustments. For me, it became much simpler to be able to line things up and make sure that they were all straight. So that's an option. And, either process is just fine. And I know that there's probably some of you out there that this would be much more appealing to have the measurements to be able to. Now I did mark in like my seam allowances here on the end so that I could line these up. So for instance, when I do each strip, I made sure that I was measuring from the seam allowances and that so it would line up. And when the frame is placed around the pieces, they would all match. So, but on the other hand, the strips that we have from the Rakusu pattern book do the same thing. And it's just that you're not going to have as much detail, but that might not matter to you. That might not be something that is the most important thing for you. So I definitely, as you're considering, if you want to try the graph paper, by all means, this may be, again, the thing that's most appealing. On the other hand, the pattern book may be where you feel that that's more of your comfort zone. So I just wanted to give you this option in case that it was something that would kind of strike your fancy or feel like it would be work for you or make more sense for you, especially if you're not a sewer and kind of like patterns. Yeah, I don't know about patterns, but kind of graphing things out like you would do on a technical drawing or mechanical kind of thing might be more to your liking. So just wanted to give you that option. Do put in the comments below if you have any preference for this, or if you'd like to see more of this method, because I'd be glad to start from scratch and have a blank page and we could measure it out the way you would if you were making them from a blank piece of paper. Otherwise, let me leave this as an option or a possibility, and we'll really look forward to having you put your paper pieces together. And then in the next episode, we'll get our fabric out and start folding the fabric to match our paper pieces. All right, so thank you for listening. I hope that that was clear. I know that this is an exciting step actually to start working on what the inside face of the Rakusu will look like and how to create those tucks. And it is important to start with the paper pieces first, and then we'll be, in our next episode, be working with the fabric itself and create those tucks. So thank you for listening. If you have questions or comments, post them below or send an email at SewingSangha@gmail.com. So take care, and we'll see you in the next one.